Hey guys, tonight we weave through the grand courts and narrow corridors of Tudor England, where the air is thick with conspiracies and whispers. You'll find that the courtiers' clothing did far more than shimmer in the candlelight. It spoke a language. Folds of fabric hid delicate secrets, symbols expressed unspoken loyalties, and colors held political weight. You slip into this opulent world where every glance is measured and every conversation potentially dangerous. But don't worry, you probably won't survive this courtly intrigue. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where your twilight finds you, so feel free to drop your location and local time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself gliding along the polished wooden floors of the royal palace, your soft slippers barely making a sound. The lanterns flicker gently, casting warm, golden pools of light that dance upon the walls. You notice how the elaborate tapestries sway slightly, as if whispering tales of their own. These are not ordinary woven patterns. Each thread seems to hum with the weight of history, much like the murmur of courtiers exchanging furtive glances and coded gestures around you. Your attention is caught by a particularly resplendent figure passing by. The gentleman wears a doublet of such exquisite craftsmanship that it might have belonged to a prince. The fabric is a rich, damask intricate, and so meticulously embroidered that you almost forget to breathe as you watch the play of light across its surface. The sleeves puffed and slashed reveal contrasting silk, within scarlet perhaps a bold statement of allegiance, or maybe just the height of fashion. You wonder if walking in such opulence ever felt burdensome, or if one simply floated above the concerns of mere mortals. Historians still debate whether fashion choices in Tudor times carried secret meanings, or if such tales are the work of overly imaginative minds. But standing here amidst these walking masterpieces, it's hard not to believe that each color, each stitch holds a whispered promise or a veiled threat. You sense the air is almost alive with a tension that's both thrilling and slightly unsettling. You find yourself drawn to a group of ladies. Their gowns are visions of elegance with colors reminiscent of a sunset melting into the night sky, soft pinks and deeper purples blending flawlessly. The ruffles around their necks and wrists are delicate like the soft petals of a newly bloomed rose. As they turn, their skirts swirl with a gentle elegance that defies the heavy fabric. A whisper escapes, like the brush of velvet against polished stone, secrets hidden in layers of silk and lace. One of the ladies, a woman whose eyes glint with intelligence, and something unsaid meets your curious gaze. She offers a whisper of a smile, one corner of her mouth tilting upward ever so slightly, as though acknowledging an unspoken understanding between you. Does she know you sense the coded language everyone else speaks fluently? Is she curious if you might decipher it? Suddenly the laughter of a jester breaks the tensed quiet, his antics deliberately over the top, providing relief in this world of careful steps and constructed sentences. He tumbles into your path, his bells tinkling playfully, and you can't help but chuckle at his ridiculous exaggerated bow and the way his eyes twinkle with mischief. He knows this world well, the secrets it hides, and the ones he brings into the open with a jest. You imagine how it must feel to wear his motley costume, an unabashed disruption in shades of joyous color. No hidden meanings here, just the pure freedom of entertainment. Yet your thoughts are continually pulled back to the surreal nature of the clothing around you. You ponder if there ever was a time when fashion was simply about keeping warm and dry. Here it's a vocabulary. You're only just beginning to learn each hem and embroidery, a word each ensemble, a sentence in the larger conversation of court life. As you drift further down the hall, you catch snippets of French and Latin, languages that flow as easily as the silk in which their speakers are wrapped. You wonder if fluency in these non-native tongues is essential or merely another layer of this complex social tapestry. It seems there is a fluency in dress here too, and you consider whether the clothing speaks louder than any of the softly uttered phrases echoing beneath grand arches. And as you navigate this resplendent world, you gather an unasked-for appreciation for the stewards of this era, those who tailor these rich costumes with elaborate secrets woven into their seams. The few who can truly read the room, not by the words spoken, but by the cloth draped across those present. You continue to observe, surrounded by silken stories and whispered intentions. A chuckle escapes your lips as a rather portly gentleman passes by, failing utterly to negotiate the narrow path between tables. Hose scandalously misfitting perhaps a message in itself, although one you're unsure of. You can't help but wonder if he chose this ensemble, or if perhaps he's wearing a story not meant for him. The thick scent of lavender and cloves lingers in the air, leaning heavily into the sweetness of summer blooms. Despite the grandeur and heaviness of the space, you feel a light peal of excitement, a lacing of anticipation that tinges the cool evening breeze flowing in from the courtyard. Your journey here isn't about survival anymore. It's about discovery, the unveiling of subtle narratives, each as complex as an aged tapestry. You wander deeper, losing yourself in the shadows and light of this bygone era. You feel the weight of history on your shoulders, but also the buoyancy of strolling through someone else's dreams. As the evening stretches languidly into night, you allow yourself a slow exhale, letting your shoulders relax against the smooth wood of a nearby balustrade. You close your eyes, and the soft murmur of the court becomes a faraway lullaby echoing the centuries of whispered tales. Every last thread, every minute detail in your attire matters infinitely more than you could have imagined as you find yourself navigating the opulent world of a medieval court. The woven tapestries and ornate gold-flecked outfits of those around you create an environment both striking and daunting. Each noble seems to carry their own concealed universe under layers of silk and velvet whispering secrets through the rustle of fabric. As you step carefully onto the polished stone floor, you're acutely aware that fashion here is no mere vanity, it's survival. Your mind races back to this morning, when the seamstress, a woman named Marjorie with nimble fingers and eyes sharp with wisdom, warned you. "Mind the hem length," she said, not bothering to look up from her work. "His Majesty's court is a place where the wrong stitch might cost more than your pride." You nodded then, and you nod now, though the wisdom of her words tugs at your nerves. You chuckle to yourself at the irony, a place where excellence in fashion could put even Master of Disguise to shame. The scent of beeswax and sandalwood fills the hall, softening the layers of tension that sit heavily like invisible burdens on your shoulders. There's a calmness here, but it's the dangerous sort, a quiet sea before the storm kind of calm. You can feel the weight of glances, assessing the tones of your gold-trimmed cloak, whether it's the acceptable shade of opulence or a step too far, a calculated game of needle and thread. The vibrant paintings on the stone walls depict scenes from battlefields to banquets, each a vivid tapestry, capturing moments meant to project power and grandeur, or perhaps to distract from whatever the lords and ladies would rather forget. You wonder if they ever truly believe these displays, or if, like everything else, they're yet another stitch in the fabric of this courtly illusion. As you nearly trip over a stray lute left by a musician who was perhaps too engrossed in seeking favors from a passing nobleman, you hear someone clear their throat nearby. You turn to find a figure clad in deep blue satin, a color so rich you swear it absorbs the light. "Looking for the chin that's always up, my friend," the man quips, with a soft chuckle, nodding toward a cluster of courtiers. One wrong glance at the ground, and they'll have you eating out of their hands in no time. You respond with a smile, part amused, part wary of his insight. His jest brings a whisper of ease to your chest, a little buoy against the sea of decorum that threatens to drown you. But not all courtly designs are as visible to the eye. Hidden cleverly in the froth of collars and under the layers of silk sleeves lie secret stitches, carrying messages, an ingenious code, known to but a few. It's a tradition that stretches back to tales of intrigue and espionage from the courts of yore, though historians still debate whether such stories hold truth or have become mere legend, spun from the imaginings of fanciful storytellers. The day's essential order, it seems unnecessarily fraught with the complications of finicky fashion, was subtly weaved. One misplaced pleat could turn favor to folly. You smile to yourself, imagining a courtly announcer declaring with grave solemnity, "By decree of the king, all pantaloons must now feature the latest trend, the swan's feather motif." Light sarcasm warms your thoughts, calming the edges of uncertainty, though you're certain such decrees have been made on whims. The doors of the banqueting hall stand ahead like sentinels, polished wood, gleaming under elaborate ironwork. Your steps echo lightly as you approach each footfall, a reminder that you're playing a part in this grand parade. The air inside is alive with the scent of roasting meat and the sweeter notes of honeyed wine, mingling in a promise of indulgence. But above all, you're keenly aware of the scrutinizing eyes, taking in every detail of your entrance, weighing your worth as much by the cut of your sleeves as by the bow of your head. As you find your place at the table, a tapestry hangs limply behind you, a woven manifestation of the kingdom's fabled history, featuring mighty battles and noble beasts like griffins and lions. With every movement, it seems to rustle a little, echoing the faint whispers of courtly plots and schemes, not entirely unlike A veiled rumor passed around, embroidered with every telling. And as you settle, you notice the lady across the table subtly adjust her own delicate lace cuffs, revealing an extra stitch, one out of place, unless its purpose was to pass along a message. A playful thought dances through your mind. Perhaps it's a love note strategically placed to ensure discretion. You exhale softly, realizing the game of fashion and diplomacy you've been in all along. A game not everyone will survive as gracefully. A subtle tension eases in your chest, and you know that tonight at least you've managed to weave yourself safely into the fabric of court society. For now, your seams hold true, and you've managed to unravel a bit of the elegant mystery, one stitch at a time. You've played the game and hid what needed hiding, mastering the delicate balance of style, wit, and survival. Just another evening at court, where every stitch is a strategy unto itself. The soft hum of the city fades into the background as you find yourself walking through a narrow cobblestone street. The early morning mist clings to the air, wrapping itself around you like a well-loved cloak. There's a gentle clinking of a blacksmith's hammer somewhere in the distance, creating an oddly soothing rhythm as you make your way to the heart of the bustling town. Today, your destination is a grand place, filled not only with fabrics and threads, but with whispering secrets. You've heard stories about the great Tailors Guild in the kingdom, where each member took great pride in mastering their craft. Tailors were more than mere keepers of measurement tapes and scissors. They were confidants, privy to the unspoken secrets. It's said that they could sew history into hems and tie knots of loyalty along with silken threads. As you approach the tailor shop, the door creaks open and the scent of fresh linen greets you, a smell that always makes you think of carefree summers and crisp morning sheets. Inside the shop is bright and warm, illuminated by the soft glow of candles, flickering in a corner, held within ornate brass holders shaped like twisting vines. The master tailor, a graying man with spectacles perched on his nose like a precariously balanced bird, looks up with a welcoming nod. His fingers deftly work on a garment, and you marvel at his skill. Tailors of this era, especially within the royal circles, were revered figures, respected and watched. The royal tailor, you see, wasn't just responsible for clothing the court. He was an unassuming observer, holding the power to weave tales and truths into each garment. "Good to see you," he murmurs, his voice as rich as the velvet resting on his work table. You notice he doesn't pause his needlework even for a second. "I've something special for you today. But tell me, what have you been up to?" You recount your week, the usual mix of monotony and mild adventure. He chuckles softly at your description of a noble's overly flamboyant hat. "Oh, they're in vogue, certainly, though perhaps not in good taste," he quips. Tailors, you find, often have opinions that are just as sharp as their scissors. As his hands move expertly across the fabric, you allow yourself a moment to consider his strange, almost enigmatic position. History tells us that royal tailors were often privy to countless secrets. They knew not just the physical dimensions of a person, but their personal intricacies too, who they liked, Which rivalries simmered beneath forced smiles at court? Did you know, the tailor muses, the hem length of a cloak could indicate one's station back in the day? You nod, pretending you did, though such specificity had never crossed your mind. Or that the choice between silk and wool had ramifications beyond mere comfort, sometimes against better judgment even or fashion sense. The irony isn't lost on you. Here where ego-struck decisions, unraveled with stitches and trends, swayed political allegiances, a tailor wielded more influence with a tape measure than some advisors did with a quill. As he continues sewing, the tailor mentions the famed cloak of a particular duke, now a tale as dusty as the books where it's recorded. Historians still debate, he says conspiratorially, whether the intricate patterns on his garments were mere ornament or a message carefully stitched in code. You imagine those times when cloth wasn't just cloth, but canvas for silent declarations. It makes you wonder how many mots d'espoir or cryptic musings lay embroidered under unassuming collars and cuffs. Moments drift by the tailor, stitching stories in his quiet, rhythmic way, occasionally pausing to adjust the pieces, ensuring each stitch aligns perfectly with the flow of the cloth. It's a dance you think a delightful, intricate waltz between needle and thread. Sometimes he offers snippets of trivia or wry comments about forgotten fashions and the absurdities of past sartorial choices. You file them away in your mind like colorful threads in their spool, weaving a tapestry not of cloth, but of history intermingled with humor. Remembering the intimidatingly precise waistcoats once worn by European nobles, you remark, how did they ever breathe? The tailor laughs a sudden joyous sound that echoes softly in the compact space. Ah, therein lies the secret. The tighter the fashion, the looser the morals. He winks, continuing, or so they said. As the morning stretches toward noon, you feel yourself relaxing into the space walls, lined with vibrant silks and butter-soft velvets, whispering exotically against their shelves. It's a comforting sight, grounding in its simplicity, despite the grand stories attached. Outside, chaos slowly morphs, from a distant buzz to a nearby bustle. Shoppers barter, children squeal with delight, and the gentle rumble of a carriage passing by momentarily reverberates through the shop's floor. Remember, the tailor remarks with that knowing glint in his eye, the clothes might not make the man, but they can sure complicate his life. You both share a smile at that, and it's a sentiment that seems to sum up your morning here. Your time in the tailor's company learning the delicate art of sewing stories into seams is near its end. But as you step back into the cobblestone street, the morning mist, now cleared by the sun's gentle warmth, you carry with you a richer appreciation for the subtle arts hidden in plain view. And perhaps, just perhaps, the next time you don that old cloak, you'll wonder what whispers have been sewn within it. All right, here we go with section 4 of our ongoing bedtime storytelling journey. The halls echo with the rustling of fabric as you find yourself in a lavish chamber of the medieval court where the noblemen and women parade in garments that seem to defy gravity and logic. Their sleeves, triumphs of excess and imagination, billow like small opulent clouds tethered to their arms. You can't help but wonder how they manage to move gracefully, let alone hide entire documents within these extravagant structures. A gentle chuckle escapes you, knowing full well that slipping on these voluminous sleeves would be your undoing. It's almost as if these noble figures are stewards of their own mobile filing cabinets, their secrets nestled close, right at the crook of their elbows. You step forward, walking across an intricately woven tapestry beneath your feet. It's been spun with stories of grand battles and peaceful reconciliations, almost like this very same court, where the game of who might overthrow whom plays out daily, albeit with fewer dragons. The smell of burning candles and the faintest hint of lavender wafts through the air, and you are reminded of the stories told about the unbearable weight of the medieval finery. Would you even be able to lift your arms? Historians have long debated the origin of these lavish garments. Some argue they were the result of a society with more resources than sense. Others suggest a reflection of the wearer's status and power. These colossal sleeves were even said to hold love letters secreted away like gold in a dragon's hoard. Deep in the folds of brocade, a lord might tuck a note, profess an undying devotion, or perhaps the recipe for his favorite mead. Keeping a love life hidden while your betrothed was nearby was definitely an art form. Tonight, however, the mood is tense, heightened by the tapping of rain against stained glass windows. You listen as the court hushedly discusses rumors and whispers. One such whisper suggests that once an audacious plot against the queen nestled safely within such sleeves, only to emerge at the opportune moment in the hands of a conspirator. You can't help but raise an eyebrow in mild disbelief. Would their secret go unnoticed by the guards, or did these noble sleeves serve as more than just a fashion statement, perhaps portable treason, if you will, with the quiet confidence of one who bears the weight of knowing both too little and nothing at all? You traverse the stone hallways lined with flickering sconces. You pause to take in the scene, nobles engaging in subtle verbal sparring and laughter, lurking under sharp exchanges. The cloistered quarters become like a play rich with intrigue. The sleeves are the true masterminds, you mutter to yourself, with quiet amusement as you pass by a lord, displaying his own fabric fortifications. Again, you're caught up in the tradition that dictated these sleeves be not merely ornamental, but practical in the strangest of ways, each an enigma to be unraveled by curious onlookers, much like the folds they wore. An attendant approaches, offering a silver tray with delicacies that smell as if they were concocted from nothing short of wizardry. Perhaps just like these secrets, you'll ponder whether the chefs have a hidden fold in their seemingly magical abilities. You take a celestial pastry and begin wondering amidst gentle bites about the lives these garments have witnessed. Were these just garments, or companions in conquest's soft enclaves for dangerous secrets? Maybe they were both. You consider as you observe an elegantly feathered quill disappear beneath velvet folds. The evening stretches like the shadows beneath those grand sleeves. You feel the pull of sleep as your thoughts begin to muddle and merge with the quiet murmur of the hall. A yawn is stifled behind your hand, tiredness now weighing upon you like layers of fine fabric, heavy yet strangely comforting. As you prepare to leave this regal gathering, you ponder once more the thoughts of those whose messages traveled within cloth and seam. It's a wonder they managed the art of balance, both physical and political, as their attire swept gracefully behind them like trailing echoes. Was there ever such a time when clothing bore the confidences of nations and hearts alike? Your curiosity whispers gently through your mind as you walk back through the corridor of centuries past shades of color and whispers of long-gone voices accompanying your steps. You leave with a smile. Perhaps there is some delight, after all, in carrying a mystery at one's side, hidden beneath layers of life, and letters ready to unfurl at a moment's notice. The evening's lessons held within the fabric unplug from your thoughts, making way for the soft lure of dreams. Every tiny stitch whispers its secrets to you as you trace your fingertips over the textured fabric. It's the year 1535, and you're standing in the flickering candlelight of a bustling Tudor tailor's workshop. Shadows dance along the stone walls as the seamstresses work diligently, heads bent over their spools and needles. You found yourself here on a peculiar mission, one that could uncover the hidden stories sewn into the very fabrics. The air carries the blended aroma of wax wool and a distant hint of rosemary, which is known to keep moths at bay. As your eyes adjust to the dim lighting, you notice strange, intricate patterns across the garments spread out around the room. The ordinary observer would dismiss them as decorative flourishes, but you've heard whispers of a different story, messages encoded in the very weave of the fabric. Historians still debate whether these stitch count patterns were a deliberate form of communication or merely an embellishment with no particular intent. As you ponder this, the workshop's master Tailor, a robust gentleman with a perpetually furrowed brow, approaches and places a hand on your shoulder. "See here," he says, guiding your gaze to a linen doublet adorned with delicate cross stitches and floral knots. "This tale isn't as simple as it seems. It's more of a chameleon, you see," he chuckles, as you imagine a lizard with a penchant for embroidery. Amidst the soft hum of needle and thread weaving history's tapestry, you survey these garments and wonder who might wear such cryptic attire. You picture a lady of the court, Lady Eleanor perhaps, slipping into a meticulously stitched gown. She might have exchanged secret messages with her allies, each knot and stitch spelling out words only the initiated would understand. Clever and subtle, unlike proclamations, shouted across cobblestone streets. You reflect on how much more exciting your daily emails would be if you could just subtly stitch them into your cardigan. Not only text passed through these elite communication channels, sometimes these thread-borne secrets interwove love letters, sweet endearments hidden from watchful eyes under the guise of ornate fashion. You imagine a young gallant secretly whispering his affection through needlework, weaving his sentiment into the silk-laden sleeves he sends to his beloved. It's fascinating the complexities hidden in these layers of thread and intention. The workshop feels alive, each seamstress and artist absorbed in her task, her hands an extension of the silent conversation whispering beneath the cloth. You sit at a wooden bench, worn smooth with age, feeling a yawn creep up as your shoulders relax against the wood's familiar creak. For a moment, your mind drifts to a time when threads spoke louder than words. A bustling noise jolts you back as a young apprentice almost tips a basket of unraveled thread across the room. He sheepishly apologizes, earning out a good-natured scold from the master tailor. Well, don't just stand there like a maypole on May Day. This earns a round of soft chuckles from the other seamstresses, who briefly lift their eyes, flashing smiles that warm the room more than the pockets of steam coming up from the irons. And so you continue to wander through this tranquil place, where the air is filled with more than just the scent of fabric. It's thick with a history weaved into every stitch. Each garment an unwritten book on a silent bookshelf waits its turn to be read. Its codes, unraveled by those who know how to listen to its soft, encrypted song. Who can say what words you might discover, maybe even solve a mystery or two, all packed away in a needle stroke? Engulfed by such musings, you lean back, surrounded by garments of whispered stories with future possibilities dancing before your closed eyes. These threads have woven a cloak of history and secrets over your thoughts, wrapping you in a cocoon of wonder as sleep gently tugs at the seams of your consciousness, quietly beckoning you to dream of stitches and stories. Go on, post your location and local time. I'm curious where you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you step into the understated elegance of a 19th century tailoring shop, the scent of freshly pressed suits and tang of iron fillings hang in the air, a strangely comforting aroma that speaks of precision and craftsmanship. You're greeted by the muffled sounds of scissors cutting through fabric, each snip sharp and deliberate, yet somehow soothing. Mirrors glisten from every corner, reflecting an endless parade of patterns and textures. Inside, the tailors work intently, their deft fingers weaving tales of intrigue into the very fabric they handle. One detail in particular catches your eye: an aged gentleman meticulously threading a piece of red thread through the eye of a needle, his brow furrowed in concentration. It's just a thread, simple and unassuming, yet it holds more power than one could ever guess. In the world of tailoring, a single red knot tucked inside a cuff doesn't merely symbolize style. It's akin to a secret language whispering warnings only to those in the know. You wonder who initiated such a peculiar practice. Historians still debate whether this began as a strategic move by tailors to communicate loyalty or betrayal during tumultuous times. Certainly gives reading between the stitches a whole new meaning, doesn't it? You stroll gently between the workstations, marveling at the symbiotic dance between hands and fabric. The head tailor, with a knowing look, catches your eye and gestures for you to come closer. A well-placed knot can protect you. He murmurs, his voice a comforting rumble, or warn others of the dangers lurking beneath a polished surface. You nod, suppressing a smile at the thought of espionage conducted via waistcoat. As you explore further, you find yourself intrigued by the complexity of the relationship between tailor and client. It's not just about measurements and materials, but a careful study of character, a talent in disguise. You can't help but think of Shakespeare's wise words, "The apparel oft proclaims the man." But here a single thread decides how trustworthy that proclamation might be. While you ponder, an elderly lady recounts an old tale to another patron, how Napoleon Bonaparte wore a coat lined with invisible stitches of red to distinguish his inner circle during his final days on Elba. A whimsical notion, perhaps, but the vividness of such stories breathes life into the silent halls of history. At one corner, a young apprentice fumbles with his needles, and you chuckle softly. Perhaps there's hope for him yet. You recall your own early days. Everyone needs a mentor, guiding their journey through tangled threads. As evening falls, the warm glow of the workshop draws long against the floorboards, your eyelids pleasantly heavy. In this serene world, the hum of activity is a lullaby of its own, each stitch a gentle promise of resilience craft, and those quiet whispers to be heard only by those looking closely enough. And so, under the softly ticking clock, you settle into an oversized armchair, letting the story of stitches and secrets carry you one soothing thread at a time. The court is alive with the hum of chatter, the clinking of goblets, and the gentle rustle of silk skirts against the stone floors. You navigate the grand halls of Elizabethan England, with eager anticipation your footsteps echoing softly as you approach the throne room where Queen Elizabeth herself holds court. Your heart skips a beat, not from fear, but from the thrill of being so close to the heart of political intrigue. It's whispered among the court that Her Majesty has a peculiar way of expressing her thoughts and moods. While others rely on speeches or letters, Elizabeth has a more subtle and perhaps cunning method. She changes the color of her underskirts. Today, you learn she wears a rich sapphire blue, a color known for its association with depths of thought and sincerity. Oh, the drama of fashion. You quietly chuckle to yourself, wondering if she ever has those "I have nothing to wear" moments just like the rest of us mere mortals. As you make your way into the dimly lit room, tapestries on the walls flutter slightly from the draft of an open window. There's a comfort in the solidity of history all around you. The heavy oak doors, the glint of gold on embroidered furnishings, and the scent of burning beeswax candles that permeate the space. It's a setting that feels timeless, as if the walls themselves might just burst into tales from days long gone. Elizabeth is seated the very embodiment of the brilliant sun that symbolizes her rule. Historians often ponder whether she truly ever wore a frown upon her famously high forehead, or if it was just another carefully curated statement like her wardrobe today. Her inner circle, her trusted advisors and ladies in waiting, know the cryptic language of her attire. It's a game, a delicate dance of understanding, or as some might say, survival. You imagine the hushed conversations behind her back as courtiers attempt to decode what a bright red underskirt might mean. Political instability, a pact with foreign powers, or simply a preference for a vibrant splash of color to enrapture the solemn tones of an official meeting. It's enough to make you question if Elizabeth herself ever tires of the charade, or if she revels in the layers of mystique. The rich scent of rosemary and lavender drifts through the air, from a nearby window planter soothing your senses. You take a deep breath and exhale softly, letting your shoulders relax slightly against the age-old stone walls. There's a timeless tranquility here, a sense that despite the intrigue and gossip, life continues with the predictable rhythm of courtly duty. In a quiet moment, you overhear a whispered exchange. Do you truly think the colors match her moods? One lady in waiting asks another, her voice barely louder than a breath. Well, the other replies with a delicate shrug. Whether it's fact or fiction, you have to admit it keeps us on our toes. Your eyes drift to a painting of the queen, her visage both commanding and enigmatic. You wonder how well you would understand her if you ever spoke directly. If the image of a powerful and inscrutable monarch would dissolve into someone remarkably human, capable of laughter or even boredom. After all, who wouldn't, with the same endless routine of diplomacy and decision-making? A gentle breeze wafts through, and you think of the gardens outside, teeming with the fragrances of summer blooms. The warmth of the sun through the windows is comforting, much like the steady presence of Elizabeth herself, guiding her nation through tumultuous times with unparalleled resolve. It's fascinating, you muse, reflecting on the power of color and perception. Historians still debate whether her elaborate gowns were meant purely for personal expression, or if they were another cog in the great political machine she deftly maneuvered. Either way, each glance, each turn of the head becomes an intricate performance with implications beyond what meets the eye. A smile tugs at your lips as you imagine Elizabeth peering into her vast wardrobe each morning, deciding between sky blue taffeta or sunflower yellow silk. Ah, fashion diplomacy. Your thoughts wander, picturing how colors might reveal secrets or spark them within the web of court life. You notice the shadows lengthening, signaling the approach of evening. It's a gentle reminder of the passage of time, drawing the day's drama to a close. As you prepare to leave, you cast one last glance at the queen, still as a portrait, yet living, breathing, embodying the very essence of majesty and mystery. Your footsteps once more tread along the cool corridors, weaving between tapestries and candlelight. The world outside is calm, the gentle hum of the court fading behind you. You feel the day's tension unspool as the door closes softly in your wake. With a contented sigh, you ponder the pillow-soft embrace of your bed awaiting you. How wonderful it is to be part of this vibrant tapestry, even if only in the stories spun by court and color. You gingerly trace your fingers across the fabric of your bodice, feeling the delicate stitches beneath your hand. No, you're not seeking to adjust a stray seam or tuck in an errant fold. You're seeking something else, something more secretive. There's a small flap sewn just above your waistline, near enough to seem decorative should anyone ask, but not where casual glances would linger. You deftly slip 2 fingers into the hidden panel, feeling the cool, crinkled texture of parchment. This is no ordinary daydream of frothy gowns and giggling courtiers. This small missive could determine the course of not just your evening, but perhaps your entire stay at court. In your mind's eye, you envision the grand hall illuminated by flickering candlelight chandeliers, swinging gently with the soft murmurs of the night. The scent of beeswax interlaces with the earthy richness of old wood, and freshly cut flowers creating a sense of serene opulence. The atmosphere around you is calm, yet charged like the moment before an orchestra begins to play. You've been to events such as this before, each one cloaked with the gentle rustle of silk skirts and the occasional clink of goblets. A sense of history envelops you like you're walking through layers of time, afoot in the world of refined intrigue. You recall how in medieval courts doublets and bodices weren't merely fashion statements. Beyond their decorative roles, they were canvases of clandestine activities, often harboring the most intimate of correspondences or the sharp weight of a dagger. Hidden within these garments, secrets bloomed like forgotten love letters pressed into the pages of books. Historians, with their penchant for debate around the nuances of court life, still argue whether the likes of your hidden flap were a universal ploy or simply an artisan's whimsy. You chuckle to yourself, mindful of how secrets clothed in beauty rarely await consensus. The parchment at your fingertips feels reassuringly mundane, yet thrilling in the weight of its contents. After all, the dainty courtesies that define these spaces are often the cloak that muffles thunderous ambition. A footman, his face etched with the patience of stone, opens the wide oak door to the courtyard as you approach. "My lady," he murmurs with a barely perceptible nod, his countenance betraying neither curiosity nor boredom. Stepping into the courtyard, your eyes adjust to the twilight, the bluish hue casting statues in odd relief, turning their serene expressions into something almost conspiratorial. You wrap a shawl around your shoulders as chill breezes whisper tales of mysterious intrigues and narrow escapes, stories best left in hushed corners and cozy chambers, with only the flicker of a hearth as a witness. And as you walk, your thoughts wander to an unexpected tidbit you once read: how royals used to conceal intricate codes within their linens. Giant pumpkins were carved at court banquets as symbols of extravagant waste. So too were messages disguised within the pattern of a gown, codes hidden well enough to weave fate's fabric. Your lips curl into a small smile. You lean into the absurdity of imagining one's ruination neatly folded into a conspiratorial courtesan's hemline. It's both thrilling and humbling to recognize how power navigates the halls, tucked behind divine tapestries and whispered over golden goblets with feigned indifference. Passing beneath the lantern-lit arcades, you can't help but wonder how many fresh court hopefuls have scurried here, blinded by the light and overcome with dreams of grandeur. Sometimes the allure of it all feels much like a well-cooked rabbit succulent, and presented with all the fancifulness your heart could desire, until you realize that you might be the entree rather than the guest. Yet in these moments your breath steadies, and a sense of camaraderie with those who came before wraps you in its warm embrace. The court's tapestry is woven with more than silks, its life and heartbreak, cunning and laughter, much like you each playing a part. The great hall beckons you once more, as muffled strings and jovial laughter begin to spill out into the night. Your heart steadies its rhythm, as though the very stone beneath your slippered feet shares in the anticipation of what's to come. And as you slowly exhale, You pull back your shoulders and feel the parchment shift ever so slightly as the night's stories get collected, written not just in the courtier's spirited steps, but also in the echoes left along the corridors. With gentle wit, you acknowledge that indeed beneath every cleverly embroidered thread lies a tale just waiting to gently coax itself into history. As you wander through the narrow lamplit cobblestone streets, a soft fog curling around your ankles, there's a curious stillness in the air. You can't help but wonder if the world always felt this quiet, or if silence had crept in slowly over time like ivy, claiming an abandoned wall. The old tailor shop looms ahead, a place whispered about in hushed tones by those who still remember its heyday. It's said that the clothier within holds secrets, bound not in books, but in the very threads he sews. Stepping inside, your senses eagerly drink in the comforting smell of wool and leather. The shop is a hallowed hall of fabric bolts and old wooden shelves where lengths of cloth drape like forgotten ghosts. The tailor, a stately figure with silver hair and knowing eyes, pauses his stitching and looks up with a smile. You note that his fingers move with the deftness of a concert pianist, a reminder of how intricate and alive this ancient craft is. As you wander further into his world, you discover that the tailor's workbench is littered with rulers and measuring tapes, not just tools of precision, but storytellers of human dimensions. It's here that you perceive the oddity, a collection of faint, enigmatic markings scrawled on the linings of several coats, hanging quietly in the dim light. Curiosity piqued you lean a little closer, tracing a finger over a particular symbol, an intricate pattern almost like the crest of a forgotten order. The tailor chuckles softly, his voice as soothing as the lull of waves against a moonlit shore. "Ah, you found the secret language of the trade," he says. "Each symbol has its story, its allegiance, sometimes even a warning. It's amusing to think that the jackets of the elite might carry these silent confessions stitched into their seams. You wonder if wearing such a garment might feel like harboring a small rebellion, a hidden joke hidden from the eyes of authority." He nods toward a heavily embroidered coat. Its edges shimmer with golden threads. "That there," he gestures, "was for a gentleman who fancied himself a poet of revolution. Of course, you'd never see him at the front lines. But his coat," his eyes twinkle with mischief. "Well, it was always with him in every fancy salon, quietly proclaiming his ideals." As you savor this hidden history, a small, pleasing absurdity hits you like a feather on the wind. Here in these quiet folds of fabric beaten smooth by ancient irons, each stitch whispers of the tailor's influence. You half joke to yourself what other secrets might your own clothes hide. Perhaps your favorite jacket has been plotting world domination without your knowledge. There's a pause, as the tailor studies your expression, amused at your private revelry. "Marks like these," he continues, "they're not simply a matter of public statement. Sometimes they're necessary precautions, omens, if you like to ward off fortune's whims. Historians still debate whether these symbols truly held power, or if they simply comforted those who wore them. Much like rabbit's feet, they may have provided assurance more than action." The atmosphere here feels tangible, wrapped, as it is with these tales of cloth and thread. The tailor's steady hands reveal a life woven with moments of subtle rebellion and quiet loyalty, every finished garment an archive. How unexpectedly wonderful it is that a strip of fabric the width of a palm could carry so much weight. You imagine the solemn responsibility of carrying these messages. It's a bit like being a human telegram, a notion that's both thrilling and burdensome in equal measure. Then again, perhaps that's the very fabric of history itself, ever weaving through lives, quietly evoking curiosities, igniting passions. Each hidden mark, a thread tying then to now, waiting to tell its story to anyone willing to look beyond the dye and pattern. As you leave the shop, the fog holds court in the streets, once again, maintaining its comfortable embrace of the evening. The stars above, shy yet steadfast, peer down through the veils of cloud. Walking home, you find yourself pondering those symbols. Could they influence your own life? Would your everyday decisions be somehow altered, knowing that your choice of coat might signify more than just a preference for warmth? Your steps fall in easy rhythm with the night, and in that cozy solitude, you realize how textile-like history is a tapestry of endless stories waiting patiently to be unraveled, or perhaps to unravel you. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And, hey, I'm curious, where are you tuning in from? And what time is it there? Feel free to share. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself amidst the opulence of the French court, your gaze sweeping across the room. Sunlight filters through intricate tapestries, casting patterns on the stone floor that mimic the embroidered lilies blooming across the noblewoman's gown before you. The fabric whispers with each step. She takes her skirts brushing the ground like a gentle breeze across a meadow. To anyone unaware, it's just a floral motif charming in its craftsmanship. But you, clever observer that you are, know there's a secret nestled in those petals. They're a symbol, a declaration of allegiance to France. Historians still debate whether these secret sartorial messages were deliberate acts of defiance or subtle calculated moves in a game of power. You wonder as you watch, imagining the hush of scandalous whispers that such a statement might inspire in the dark corners of the court. The air is fragrant with a mix of lavender and beeswax from the candles flickering around the room. Your feet glide over the cool stones, each step a careful dance around the fringes of politics and intrigue. As you draw closer to the noblewoman, the sound of a lute playing a gentle tune wraps around you like a warm embrace, lulling away any tension. Her laugh, a soft melodic sound, spills into the air when a young man, his doublet rich and adorned with golden thread, makes an exaggerated bow, mock serious beneath his mischievous grin. "Ah, milady," he teases, "your love of blooms speaks volumes, perhaps even across the channel." You stifle a chuckle, feeling a hint of warm amusement bloom in your own chest. The youthful arrogance of court jesters and gallant knights never fails to entertain. As the conversation drifts into lighter topics, Your attention swivels to the grand tapestries adorning the walls. They tell tales of chivalrous knights and legendary conquests, stories everyone knows, but pretends to listen to for the umpteenth time. A friendly tap on your shoulder pulls you back from your reverie. It's an acquaintance, an old scholar with a penchant for odd facts, who leans in conspiratorially. You know, he murmurs, adjusting his spectacles. Even here, not all believe the tale of those lilies bearing any weight. It's said some are simply drawn by the fashion, the rebels, purely accidental. Ah, you reply with a hint of sarcasm, fashion diplomacy at its finest, the most dangerous thread anyone could pull. Your companion chuckles, a sound like dry leaves rustling underfoot. The two of you stand side by side for a moment, savoring the rare blend of mirth and mystery that only such gatherings can provide. Time flows unhurriedly here, marked not by the hours passing, but by the subtle shift of shadows growing long and slender across the mosaic floor. You take a deep breath, feeling the rich scent of rosewood from a nearby cabinet seep into your senses, calming and grounding, much like the warm tea your grandmother used to make on a quiet evening. A young page rushes past, his cheeks flushed as he carries a tray of pastries. You catch a whiff of sugar and spice awakening your taste buds. Maybe after unraveling the complexities of courtly alliances and floral espionage, there's room for a little indulgence. You exhale slowly, allowing yourself to sink into the easy rhythm of the evening, every moment a gentle reminder that in this court, appearances are not merely deceptive. They are an art form honed and polished to a gleaming perfection. With the sun now dipping beyond the horizon, casting the room in a velvet glow, the court begins to shift, moving towards a night of revelry or whispers, or perhaps both. You feel the chill of anticipation in the air, as tangible as the cool stone beneath your feet, promising that this night, much like the noble woman's gown, is more than it seems. As you sit in the dim candlelit room, you feel a curious sense of anticipation. There's a soft murmur of conversations fading away, replaced by the subtle rustling of fabric. You find yourself surrounded by a group of women, their expressions solemn but determined. You notice their hands are deftly working with needle and thread, creating patterns on a simple altar cloth. The air is thick with the scent of wax and incense. It is a small room, its wooden walls stained by the years of sheltering whispered secrets and quiet rebellions. The old wooden beams overhead creak softly under the weight of old mysteries. Around you, the women are stitching in silence, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of candles. There is a collective focus on the task at hand. You can't help but wonder why the need for secrecy. That's when it hits you, these women are stitching more than just patterns. They're threading grievances and prayers into the fabric, symbols of faith hidden in plain sight. Each stitch is a silent protest against those who tried to strip them of their beliefs and traditions. Your mind drifts to the chronicled stories of exiles, the Catholic women who were forced to flee their homes, carrying with them only their faith and the skills they had learned since childhood. They've embraced their defiance in the only way they know, by turning their needlecraft into their voice. As you watch, you notice a particular design emerge, a simplified fish symbol. To the untrained eye, it is merely a decorative flourish, but you understand it holds deeper meaning. The fish, or ichthys, is an ancient Christian symbol, hidden cleverly within the lacework. Surprise flickers through you, realizing that historians still debate whether these designs were recognized by their oppressors at the time. Some argue the designs were too subtle to raise alarm, while others suggest the authorities simply underestimated the cunning of these women. You raise an eyebrow at the thought of the latter. Underestimating women has never gone well for anyone. One of the women next to you, Rebecca, looks up, catching your eye. Her fingers pause, her needle suspended. She whispers quietly, her words meant for you alone. They believe we can be silenced, she says with a small smile, but they cannot silence the threads we weave. There's an undeniable feeling of resilience in the room, a shared understanding that more than fabric is being made here. These are stories, memories, and a resistance that refuses to be lost to the tides of time. Watching the women, you sense the subtle humor hidden behind their purposeful movements. You overhear snippets of whispered jokes shared between stitches, a reminder that even in adversity, they remain unbroken in spirit, the kind of resilience that could easily be missed if you weren't paying attention. From time to time, you catch phrases like, "If I stitch faster, will the band lift sooner?" Or, "Next, I'll stitch in a welcome to the Queen's entourage itself." You can't help but smile at the wit intertwined with their skill. But more than anything, their presence is calming, soothing even. You can feel their dedication, their hearts poured into the fabric, as surely as if they held pins instead of needles. The flickering candles, the soft sounds of steady breathing, the gentle chatter of thread, each contributes to this glow of warmth and woven rebellion. You exhale fully, feeling your shoulders relax into the evening, stepping back from the scene. The realization dawns on you their prayers and protests are historic acts of quiet courage. In their hands, the cloth becomes a canvas, not just for beauty, but for revolution wrapped in discretion. As you gently begin to weave your way back through the history etched in their designs, you draw close to these women and their whispers of defiance. You consider how deeply you are embraced by their shared invincibility tonight. Here in this calm moment, you are both observer and participant, echoing prayers that have endured the weight of time. Would they ever have believed their whispers of defiance might weave their way into history, you wonder? But even as you do, you feel the answer encircle you in the soft, unwavering presence of their craftsmanship. Your own path will eventually lead away from this small room, but its soft glow will echo long into your memory, threading its way into the tapestry of your thoughts. The soft click of a closing door echoes in a dimly lit workshop where you find yourself surrounded by fabrics of every hue imaginable, yet your eyes are drawn to a simple coat. It seems plain, but as you carefully examine the ornate buttons, you can't help but feel a thrill of discovery. Each button, with its delicate incrustations of tiny bells and gems, holds a mystery larger than itself. You ponder the dedication of those who birthed these tiny marvels, balancing beauty and peril with a skill that remains nearly unmatched. Historically speaking, the 18th century was a time full of covert exchanges. You'd think diverting attention with baubles was the height of fashion creativity, but here was a sly nod to matchmaking, an era's paranoia, with its love of ornamentation. A gentle irony tickles your thoughts as if to tell you that the most vibrant canvas for a secret is the one hiding in plain sight. Sudden whispers from the past nudge you gently. A soft voice, perhaps, belonging to a dressmaker of old, speaks with a measured decisiveness of someone for whom every stitch tells a story, every clasp a chapter. Be mindful, she murmurs just beyond your hearing. A button undone could unravel so much more than a collar. You stroll around your imagination, promenading through a market square bustling with people, each wearing garments crafted with secrets. It's quite the game, isn't it? You chuckle quietly, realizing the irony that while shoemaking was advancing thanks to the invention of left and right shoes, someone decided that buttons could play a part in history's clandestine ballet. You notice a young girl in the crowd, her vivid eyes alive with curiosity as she examines her own coat buttons, perhaps dreaming of their potential. You feel a connection with her, shrouded in the gentle hush of the market noise, a timeless understanding shared by fervent seekers of stories untold. Watching her, you smile, knowing this age-old tradition of curiosity and ingenuity isn't lost. You turn your attention back to the work table, its surface cluttered with sketches and small jeweler's tools, the makings of more than just fashion. As your fingers lightly graze the draft of a button design, you wonder if historians will still debate whether these buttoned messages ever reach their intended recipients. You can almost hear their scholarly voices addressing the question, much like the bells adorning the buttons. Even amidst academic uncertainty, one fact remains undeniable. This blend of fashion and functionality encapsulated the spirit of the age where beauty served as both allure and armor. You find the thought charming, yet remind yourself that much like goats in the past who bore messages across enemy lines, these buttons were often underestimated in their power. In the silence of the workshop, accented only by the faint crackling of a hearth in the corner, you pause to consider the bravery embodied by those who wore these buttons with purpose. The weight of it settles on you like a cloak, both heavy and luxurious, rich, with stories yet untold, but achingly familiar all the same. Your thoughts drift, imagining the crisp air of a misty morning at the start of a journey where, unbeknownst to most, the fashion of the day carried a hidden narrative. And yet, you remain tucked safely in this singular moment, a remnant of a time when the turning of a button could alter the course of history. The idea brings a warmth, a comfort easily woven into the duvet of your final musings as you feel the embrace of sleep encroaching. You let it take its course, knowing you've uncovered the gentle balance between vigilance and vulnerability that so frequently skirts the edges of human pursuit. Buttoned up secrets whispering softly like the twilight sigh of dreams. In the dim glow of candlelight, your fingers delicately trace the intricate patterns embroidered along the fabric, Have you ever considered how the placement of lace holds such clandestine significance? Tonight, you find yourself in Tudor England, where the meaning of lace is as complex as a court intrigue. Pausing for a moment, you glance up at the faded tapestry rich with historical whispers, draping the stone wall before you. Each thread woven into the tapestry tells its own tale, but none as secretive as the lace you examine now. You hold it up to the flickering light, and much like deciphering a forgotten map, you realize that the type of lace is only half the story. The other half, the more provocative half, lies in its placement. Imagine this: a lace border shimmering at the hem of a young nobleman's garment, hinting allegiance not just to style, but to power. This subtle addition declares quiet loyalty to the Dudleys, a family ever wrapped in the web of court politics. You can't help but wonder whether such sartorial subtleties could sway fate. Seems perilous to pin your fortunes on something as delicate as lace. You, of course, probably wouldn't survive rival factions' fashion critiques in one piece. Your musings are interrupted by the robust entry of a soft breeze nudging through the tall windows, carrying with it the scent of dew from freshly cut grass. You exhale slowly, feeling a gentle chill that rustles the fabric you hold, the lace whispering tales long past its prime. Meanwhile, another piece of the puzzle lies in the lace at the collar. Inevitably, this placement offers a wink, not just to fashion, but to diplomacy itself. A nod to Spain, perhaps, signifying a quiet alliance, or maybe just a dalliance with foreign trends. It's a nod that transcends borders and breaches the shield of courtly decorum with its knowing curl. You shift slightly on the worn wooden bench, feeling the gentle give of the wood beneath you. As the echoes of whispers from jesting courtiers trail ghost-like through the air, it's comforting to remember people haven't much changed. Just like then, we're all trying to figure out the latest trend while sipping on our overpriced coffee of choice. A figure steps into view, their silhouette softly obscured by the candle's halo. They nod in greeting. Perhaps a tailor's apprentice or a mere courtier with a penchant for lively gossip. Did you know they begin with a conspiratorial tone? There's debate about whether the lace was woven by the Flemish or English weavers. Historians still debate everything. You reply with a light smile, sharing a brief camaraderie beneath the whispered rush of centuries. But why let the mystery fade? Right, the apprentice grins, appreciating the jest, before slipping back into the shadows they emerged from. Their presence leaves behind an airy trail of intrigue, unnoticed by most but not lost to you. Slowly, your gaze returns to the lace, questioning its soft secret language and pondering the quiet power it held. Could something so elegantly woven change the tides of history? You can't help but speculate the possibilities, as endless and delicate as the lace itself. With your feet resting comfortably on the cold stone floor, a sense of peace washes over you, as if the mysteries surrounding you have momentarily paused their swirling dance. In this quiet interlude, the historic significance of a lace's place in fashion lingers juxtaposed with the soft symphony of the night. Before the journey pulls you elsewhere, you savor this moment of gentle discovery, like an explorer who cherishes the map as much as the treasures it leads to. And at last, history feels like a gentle breath hushed but ever present. Your fingers brush against the delicate texture of a canvas, the room dimly lit, a single flickering candle, casting long shadows that stretch across the richly embroidered sleeves of the subjects in the portraits. You feel a cool breeze from an open window, thick with the scent of freshly gathered lavender that calms your mind. Here you stand in a grand hall of portraits, each one whispering silently of power entrenched in the soft folds of fabric and poised expressions. Your eyes land on a portrait of a noblewoman, her sleeves hanging heavily with the weight of a dozen stories, tucked away in their shimmering finery. The artist has captured her regal composure magnificently, but you can't shake the feeling there's more than meets the eye. Historians still debate whether artists were subtly guided to downplay or obscure signatures of influence hidden in garment details like sleeves, so much riding on their representation that some secrets were best left unreadable. As you move closer, you can almost hear the muted voices of those talking around you in a long-forgotten court. Do not let them know our extents. A soft voice might have whispered to an artist who nodded, brushing his hand thoughtfully across his palette, choosing earthy ochres to blend mimicking shadows deeper than truly present. You imagine the painter cautiously deliberate with each stroke. One brush of color conveys a calculated ambiguity, a job half done, yet perfect by request. You almost laugh, thinking he probably enjoyed a stiff drink afterward, hoping no one would call him out on his sleight of hand. Tricky sleeves are a potent symbol after all. In the next portrait, a gentleman stands proudly with ruffs so wide you'd surmise they charted the path for personal air conditioning before it became a thing. You chuckle softly, realizing the absurdity of fashion transcending practicality. Then look more closely, considering how his sleeves, while grand, are less pronounced, pairing a careful elegance with a hint of purposeful restraint. Here, too, you wonder if sleeves held messages only those truly attuned to political subtleties might decode. Your thoughts drift to a bustling artist's studio. In the city, where canvases line the walls, half-hidden faces, peering out primarily noblemen, fearful of what their eyes might betray if their costumes didn't shield them properly. To think that these fashion choices might contain as much strategy as a sovereign's next royal proclamation makes you grin. You wonder how many sat through tedious fittings, internal dread, masked by smiles, knowing their chosen attire would speak far beyond the words they ever dared utter. The quiet room wraps you up like a comforter, pulling your thoughts into how meticulously styles were governed by unwritten rules, only broken by the daring few, willing to face gossipy tongues, wagging by the courtyard fountains. You picture it a lady promenades past her sleeves, carefully measured eyes, scanning her peers absorbed in silent acts of deciphering gossip, cloaked under the guise of casual observations. Oh, the joy of court life, where a stitched pine cone could lead to hours of intense speculation and sly glances shared over goblets of honeyed wine, thanks to rumor's fiercest ally, exaggerated gesturing. and an artist's whimsical touch. As you step back and admire portraits from a distance, they seem to align in a rhythm of silent harmony, each garment murmuring the secrets of an era when power was displayed as much through what was not shown as what was visible. You slowly exhale, shoulders easing back, resting steady against the cool stone wall behind you, a slow smile spreading as you acknowledge how little has changed over the ages regarding artful deception. You feel the room settling into stillness around you, yet you can't help but imagine the hum of life beyond these walls. The rich debates these sleeves might have stirred the deals, sealed with a clever nod and a knowing gaze, the fleeting worries, traded among confidants, contemplating textures and colors as potent as any spoken word. A calm realization sketches itself across your mind like the glowing horizon of an early dawn. It's less about seeing who wore their power and more about understanding who concealed it beautifully. This intricate dance between tangibility and mystery is not just history, it's human nature. You sigh contentedly, pushing away from the wall as you step toward the next hall, curious to unearth what the past might whisper to you next, reveling in the soothing cadence of unspoken symbology. The air feels warmer now, inviting you to delve deeper into the soothing narrative of painted whispers and spun tales hanging in time's gentle grasp. Historians might forever critique and question, admire and dismiss what these sleeves obscure. But standing here, you simply admire the genius that allowed so many stories to remain untold, yet eternally engaged. As you linger in this moment of wonder, you can't help but admire the art of concealment as a testament not just to fashion, but to the hidden power of secrets themselves, beyond any realm of diplomacy and perfectly poised smiles. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're listening from. So post your location and local time in the comments below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand on the edge of a vast graveyard where the scents of freshly turned earth and autumn leaves mingle in the chill of the evening air. The tombstones rise like teeth, their granite worn smooth by years of rain and wind, each bearing silent witness to stories long untold. Ahead, a procession draws closer, a sea of black and violet undulating through the mist. You can hear the soft murmur of voices, the low hum of chants carried on the breeze. It seems odd the way they speak of sorrow with such reverence, and you start to wonder if showing up to such events was less about the departed and more of a social gathering with a theme of loss. The sound of footsteps crunches on the gravel path as you approach the gathering. There is something both solemn and peculiar about this display of uniformity, a silent code of solidarity among the noble classes, as if the very fabric they wear speaks louder than words of their unity or their subtle rebellion. Historians still debate whether these choices of attire were simply tradition or had deeper, more subversive meanings. You spot an elder nobleman, his face, a craggy map of age and wisdom, and catch the bemused twinkle in his eye as he glances at the younger nobles. You can't help but imagine him as a sort of fashion police, making sure the violet is a subdued hue, not too flashy. A rebellious act done too loudly would simply not do. The air is filled with a quiet dignity, yet a part of you suspects some of these attendees might secretly enjoy the spectacle. After all, who wouldn't love the occasional excuse to don extravagant attire, even if it's meant to mourn? As you take your place among them, your fingers brush the velvet trim on your own outfit, the texture both a comfort and an itch, a status symbol and a statement all tied into one. The priest, a tall figure cloaked in the same colors, begins the eulogy, his voice a deep, calming lull as it echoes across the gathering. You catch snippets of his words, virtue, legacy, passage, and you realize it's less about the individual now resting beneath the earth, and more an oration crafted to bind those left behind. It's almost poetic how life and status continue their dance even after death. A faint smile tugs at your lips. The noblemen you see wear their garments like armor, a tangible assertion of life continuing even as they stand before the ultimate reminder of its fragility. It's both somber and surprisingly comforting somehow to know that even in this, their subtle defiance breathes life into the morning air. Beside you, a lady dabs her eyes with a silk handkerchief embroidered with violets that mirror her own attire. You think about what those violets signify, a blend of luxury and loss, and can't help but marvel at how, even as they mourn, they find a way to express themselves with such understated eloquence. As the ceremony draws to a close, the nobility start to disperse their black cloaks, whispering secrets as they move. You linger a moment longer, watching them glide away like shadows across the earth, each one bearing their own stories untold but not forgotten. The sun dips below the horizon, casting the graveyard in hues of twilight purple, reflecting the very fabric they wear. It strikes you as both melancholic and magical, this silent commune of the living, with those who have passed bound by tradition and hidden meanings as ephemeral as the light falling from the day. You follow the path back out with a slow exhale, pondering if the act of mourning would ever change, or if there will always be those quiet acts of rebellion stitched carefully into the fabric of history. As you stand in the bustling streets of London, the air is thick with the scents and sounds of the early 17th century, roasted chestnuts crackling over open flames, horse hooves clattering on cobblestones, the murmur of bartering in the markets. You can't help but notice the way life teems around you, vibrant and relentless, much like the stories that swirl in whispers through the alleyways. Tonight we delve into one such tale from the year 1601. Yes, it's the year that gave us plenty of excitement, perhaps more than you'd care to keep up with. But you're made of sturdy stuff. You probably won't survive this without a playful chuckle at the absurdity of it all, but I'm confident you'll manage. Before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you are right now and what time it is as you're joining our journey, so leave a comment below. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself intrigued by the mystery of a vanished tailor, A man who once walked these very streets, his hands stained with dyes, and his mind perhaps with secrets. This tailor, known modestly as Thomas, became embroiled in a conspiracy woven not with silks and threads, but with dangerous words. You wonder if he realized the weight of those words as they slipped from his needle into the lining of a velvet cloak. As you wander through the busy streets, you notice the ebb and flow of traders, their carts laden with goods, jostling for space amidst the pedestrians. Perhaps Thomas brushed shoulders with these same merchants, or paused to indulge in the gossip exchanged over tankards of ale at the local tavern. Historians still debate whether Thomas was truly aware of the treachery contained in the poetry he sewed, or if he was just a hapless craftsman caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. You find yourself musing on his fate, wondering if somewhere beneath that careful exterior he harbored a longing for adventure. Or was it merely the result of a commission gone awry? The cloak that sealed his doom was a masterpiece, a drape of deep velvet the color of midnight skies, soft and luxurious to the touch. Yet inside, where eyes would rarely wander, it hid dangerous allegiances stitched with care and precision. It was meant for a noble's shoulders, no less intended to whisper dark intentions at courtly gatherings under the cover of civility. How ironic, you think, for something so elegant to harbor such treason. Your mind drifts to the night the cloak was discovered, the crackling of flames licking up its edges, turning what was once a beautiful piece of craftsmanship into mere ash. It said that the air was filled with the acrid scent of burning fabric mingling with the faint lines of poetry escaping in smoke. One would imagine such an evening would stick in memory much like a bath in Thames water, something you could never quite forget no matter how hard you scrubbed. In the shadows of these streets, you consider what became of Thomas. Did he flee London on that fateful night, taking his talents to foreign lands forever, looking over his shoulder? Or was he spirited away, swallowed by the city's secrets, never to be heard from again? The lack of answers leaves you in a contemplative silence, pierced only by the distant calls of a street vendor hawking his wares. Whatever the truth, his tale remains, interwoven with the very fabric of this city, an embroidered thread in the grand tapestry of its history. The mystery of the missing poem, much like Thomas himself, whispers through time, leaving behind only questions and the faint scent of singed velvet. As you watch the last cinders of the story dim, you can't help but feel a sense of calm wash over you, like settling back into an old armchair after a long day. The streets seem quieter now, the bustle easing into a gentle hum. You exhale slowly, feeling your senses soften as the story retreats to a quiet corner of your mind, left to rest until someone else picks up its thread. You wonder about the tales not yet told, threads waiting to be woven into the narrative of the night. In this calm, you find a familiar comfort, as soothing and essential as the street lamps flickering to life, casting their soft glow over cobbles worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Tonight, like every night, London sleeps, cradling its secrets close, with you as silent witness to the dreams that drift through its midnight cloaks. Some bolts of cloth arrived in the city under the soft gray dawn. Each is neatly wrapped and tied with curious little knots. It's a peculiar delivery one that has you raising an eyebrow as you watch. The air is crisp and still with the distant clamor of merchants setting up stalls, tantalizing your senses with the promise of warm bread and spiced wine. You step forward, curiosity piqued, as others gather around to inspect the delivery. As you approach, you notice the fabric gleams subtly in the muted morning light. There's something strange about it. You reach down the texture of the cloth, cool beneath your fingertips. As you unfurl one of the bolts, you notice it has an intricate weave you've never seen before. Tiny threads of gold intertwined with indigo and scarlet. A purposeful fray at the edge runs in a perfect line, as if it were a code to be deciphered. Historians often debate whether these mysterious cloths truly bore secret orders or simply patterns of grand artisanship. But the moment your fingers brush against the fabric, there's an undeniable spark of something an understanding, or perhaps just the power of suggestion. You wonder if you're grasping at a clever fable, or if there's genuine intrigue woven into each thread. You pinch the frayed edge gently, considering its story, when a passing elder leans over your shoulder. "Ah, you found the marching orders, have you?" He chuckles, a twinkle in his eye, like he's sharing inside knowledge with the greenest of recruits. Be careful, or you might just find yourself on an unexpected quest. You tilt your head, jesting back. "As long as there's fine wine at the end, I might not mind an escapade or two." He laughs, the sound rolling like the soft hum of a wheel on cobbled streets. With a knowing nod, he moves on, leaving you entranced by the cloth's secretive charm. There's a certain energy in the air, one that's almost tangible, a collective shiver of anticipation among the townsfolk. As you notice others gathering around their own pieces of fabric, you can almost see the clouds of imagination forming above each head, a bustling hive of stories and possibilities. Stories whispered from ear to ear, where some tales convince an audience more than others. A fact, historians yet agree on whether these woven pieces truly commanded actions, or if they were mere cloths enchanted only by belief. You pull your cloak tighter against the morning chill, the potential of an adventure spinning in your mind just as silky as the fabric itself. A delightful thought flits through. Maybe these clandestine orders are no different from a secret family recipe. 1 part truth, 2 parts mystery, and just a dash of magical thinking. It's enough to keep you warm with laughter, even as the breeze rustles provocatively through your hair. And so you linger a little while longer in the marketplace, the sights and sounds weaving their own spell. The bolts of cloth glimmer enticingly, promising countless tales yet to unfold. As the city breathes awake, you feel part of something much larger, threads of destiny, even in jest, binding you to history. You continue your day, the scent of fresh bread, entwined with the laughter of children and sounds of merchants peddling their wares, but you can't help that sly smile playing at your lips. Somewhere amidst the whispering wind and rustling leaves, you fancy you can almost hear the muffled march of footsteps, a gentle reminder of possibilities, both mischievous and mythical. tucked within each piece of fabric you've yet to uncover. Amidst the glow of candlelight in the late Tudor period, you find yourself standing in a grand hall. Shadows flicker across the intricately carved wooden beams high above, as if the past is whispering its secrets just out of earshot. You're escorted by the soft rustle of your clothes, those voluminous, extravagant sleeves tumbling down your arms, capturing not only fabric, but the attention of everyone around. Some say the exaggerated puffiness is the peak of fashion. Others suggest there's more going on beneath the folds than meets the eye. As you make your way across the gleaming stone floor, you glance down at your sleeves with a mix of amusement and curiosity. Could these fluffy appendages really be concealing secrets? The thought tickles your mind, and for a moment you can't help but imagine slipping notes or even a small treasure into the folds, a hidden world swathed in brocade and velvet. Then again, you wonder if it's just a daring fashion choice designed to keep everyone guessing. Historians still debate whether the Tudor fascination with oversized sleeves was purely style-driven, or if there was a hint of espionage woven into every thread. The hall around you buzzes with a low hum of conversation, and you find your gaze drawn to the tapestries lining the walls. These tapestries, rich with threads of deep crimson and gold, depict scenes from history, battles long fought and victories dearly earned. You let yourself drift into the age-old stories, captured within the woven scenes, as if you might learn the secrets they guard by sheer proximity. A grand banquet stretches before you, the long table laden with a feast of roasted meats and delicacies unknown in your modern diet. Pies filled with figs, sugared almonds, delicately piled in silver bowls, pheasants arranged as if in mid-flight. You sit down carefully aware of the opulence and the delicate balance of food and fashion. Your sleeves, ridiculous yet delightful, threaten to upset a tower of stewed fruits, and you can't help but chuckle at the absurdity of navigating such a world. As the evening unfolds, a gentle conversation floats around you, people discussing matters of politics, and love their words, rising and falling like distant melodies. Beside you, an older gentleman leans in his face lined with the years he's seen. Do you know why he asks with a twinkle in his eye, "These sleeves are so large"? You sense a story coming, and you nod eagerly. Ah, he begins, the room fading around you as his words paint pictures in the air. It's said that a certain duke once used sleeves such as these to smuggle letters during a court intrigue. Imagine, if you will, navigating a night much like this one, all while carrying the weight of treason wrapped around your arms. The idea appeals to your sense of adventure. You picture yourself moving through the grand hallways, keeping a careful eye on those around you while holding dangerous secrets within inches of your skin. But as you return to the present, the warmth of the fire gently touches your face. You consider it more likely that these sleeves are simply an expression of the whimsy that colors every aspect of Tudor life. The grandeur of the Tudor court is seen in every corner, from the hawthorn-scented gardens outside to the decorous chamber above, where meetings take place under a canopy of chandeliers. You inhale deeply, the fragrant air carrying with it the mingled perfumes of herbs and honeyed wine. You shift in your seat, the roused bustle of the gathering, wrapping around you like a familiar cloak. Perhaps it is the warmth of the fire or the lulling song of the lute-playing musician by the hearth. But you find your eyelids growing heavier. As the instrument's mellow notes weave into the background, you feel a gentle release in your chest, your posture softening, sleep crawling closer as the night deepens around you. The thought of those unwieldy sleeves transforms from a wondrous curiosity to a cozy comfort, as if the very exaggeration of the fabric is meant to cradle you into dreams. The quiet laughter and idle chatter of the guests begins to weave into a softer, more gentle rhythm. There's no place for haste or worry here, just the undisturbed flow of time, whispered beneath wooden beams and forgotten within the folds of the drapery. Just like those grandiose sleeves, the unpredictability and opulence feel somehow reassuring, secure in its very presence. As you sink further into the calmness of the room, your breaths become deep and steady. The world around you blurs at the edges, and the warmth of the fire draws you ever closer to a peaceful slumber. You can't quite tell if it's the weight of the day finally letting go, or if it's just this timeless atmosphere inviting you to rest. Either way, you welcome it, ready to drift into a place untouched by time, where sleeves really can hold secrets and where comforting stories hum softly into the night. As you sit gently at the wooden work table, you take a moment to finger the fabric near you. The rich velvet slips between your fingers like a whisper, and you imagine the rustling sound it might make when draped as a gown. It's early evening, the sky tinged with twilight, and a cool breeze wafts through the open window, carrying with it muted sounds from the bustling marketplace nearby. It's a familiar sound, like an old song you can't remember the words to. You find it common in a way as you let your hands continue their work. Tonight your thoughts wander to your role, not just as a tailor, but as a confidant of sorts. It's quite an intriguing blend, this world of silks and secrets. As you sew, you catch snatches of conversations that linger like perfume in the air. You remember old Master Hugo, who would chuckle and say that the threads told tales if you listened closely. Funny how true that rings now. Will the dress be ready for tomorrow? A voice pulls you back to the here and now. It's Marguerite, the baker's daughter, peering through the doorway. Her bright eyes mirror the curiosity that often lights up when news spreads through the town. Her family being bakers, she'd know all about spreading things around, you think, with a wry smile. Yes, indeed, you assure her with a playful nod. And perhaps with an extra stitch of mystery, just how you like it. She laughs softly, leaning on the doorframe, her apron dusted with flour. What news do you wear upon your sleeve today? She teases back, a familiar exchange that has become something of a ritual. Well, you tell her there's talk about the king visiting towns nearby, a snippet of gossip you heard earlier from Rene the blacksmith, who swears by his cousin's account of seeing royal banners unfurling from afar. Historians still debate whether these visits were strategic or merely leisurely escapes from court life. The king apparently has a taste for confections that surpasses even Marguerite's finest creations, a claim almost hard to believe given your recent taste tests. You pause for a moment, letting the fabric slip back into place, as you think about how threads of information wind through conversations like the very stitches you make. There's a thrill in this, how the simple act of sewing can create something prized and whispered about in equal measure. Did you know you pose quietly, as if inviting a conspiracy? Some say these new styles from Italy are the reason the queen spends half her time locked away with her tailors. Marguerite gasps a hand to her mouth. Whether it's the sheer scandal of it or mere admiration for such dedication to fashion, you're not quite sure. Probably a little of both. It's remarkable to think how fashion, in this era, intertwines with politics and influence. Could one really control the fate of nations with a simple piece of cloth? A sharp needle certainly seems less terrifying than a sword, but maybe just as powerful. Will future generations laugh or marvel at this notion? You wonder. Thinking of the intricate patterns you've crafted over the years, you recall a most unusual request from a lady of the court. Her gown, destined for some significant council meeting, had tiny pockets sewn into the hem to carry leather skirts that swayed with secrets of alliances and promises inked in secrecy. It was more than a dress. It was a vessel of carefully wrought confidences. Your new friend, Master Hugo, would certainly have called it the height of spycraft had he known. You pause your handiwork for a moment, drawn back by the realization that these garments you make bear witness to a variety of dramas. Imagine a grand hall tapestries hanging high, where gowns like yours sweep across the stone floors, echoing whispers of espionage and details that could tip the scales of power. Marguerite raises an eyebrow at your moment of introspection. What mischief are you dreaming of now? Her playful tone warms the room. Nothing but the usual, you reply with a shrug. Silken plots and velveteen mysteries. Her giggle is like a sprinkle of sugar on a carefully baked tart. Light and sweet, a perfect ending to this quiet companionship. As the last light of day dips below the horizon, you stand to stretch, turning to cast one last glance at the evening sky swathed in a cerulean quilt tinged with the first stars. Another day of stitchery and stories well spent. You wonder idly what tales tomorrow will thread through your needle. With a yawn, you decide it's time to close shop for the night. Buttons and thimbles find their homes again, fabric bolts aligned as if standing in quiet anticipation of new creations. The promise of rest tugs at your eyelids like a gentle woolen scarf on a chilly night. You escort Marguerite to the door as you lock up, sharing a smile that speaks of shared secrets better than any words could. The night air is crisp, sighing gently through the streets as you both set off in different directions. The scene ready to repeat, with variations and new characters the next day. Wandering home, you realize the world may debate and ponder many things. Kings and queens, war and peace, but tonight, it's enough to know that in some small way, you're both a part of and apart from it all. Through every stitch and every whisper, there is a connection, a story that never quite ends, but merely pauses awaiting its next chapter. And so you listen to the soothing hum of your footsteps, the fanfare of crickets in nearby fields, softly serenading your path as you think back on the tales you've woven today. Futures, balanced on the thread of today's revelations, like the warmth of a favorite cloak. Isn't that something worth dreaming about? So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop us a comment with your location and what time you're tuning in. We love knowing we're weaving these tales together across the miles. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing outside a Tudor manor. Its half-timbered walls, lined with white plaster, the dark beams, a stark contrast in the flickering light of early evening. The chatter of stable boys and the clatter of horses' hooves drift through the crisp air. A servant with a bonnet perched precariously on her head ushers you inside, whispering conspiratorially about the latest design from Mistress Catherine. Your curiosity piqued, and you follow her into the great hall. Inside, women gather around a large oak table, their fingers busy with needles and fine thread, weaving elaborate patterns into pieces of linen, the fabric of their rebellion. Draped over the wooden chair near you sits a gown heavy with embroidery that tells a silent tale of defiance, a narrative inked not with words, but with cunning stitches. Historians still debate whether these intricate designs carried secret ciphers or messages of political dissent. But one thing is certain, such a subtle rebellion was safer than an open insurrection. You imagine the whispered conversations shared over these sewing circles, words of resistance cloaked by the cover of gossip and laughter, perhaps even a jest or two about Henry VIII's famously questionable marital decisions. You drift closer, entranced by the rhythm of needle through fabric, the swish of thread through linen. One of the women murmurs, "Did you hear last week a message was hidden in the hem of Lady Grey's gown?" The others laugh softly, a shared secret hanging in the air like the soft scent of lavender sachets. You feel an impulse to lean in, almost as if you're about to be let in on an exhilarating secret yourself. The room is warm, filled with the gentle glow of candlelight that dances over the wooden rafters above. The walls whisper stories adorned with tapestries depicting hunts and legendary figures, their woven threads a backdrop to the very present rebellion taking place, one stitch at a time. You glance at the shadows they cast and wonder if these stories, too, are stitched with double meanings and veiled mockeries aimed at those in power. Suddenly, a mischievous voice pipes up from the corner. Careful with that pattern. Mistress Howard, lest someone else wears it and ends up in the stocks. The room bursts into a murmur of amusement, and you can't help but chuckle your breath, mixing with the scent of beeswax and fresh linen. In a quieter moment, you gently trace your fingers over the embroidery, wondering at the stories hidden there, stories meant to evade the notice of those who might not wish them told. It's said that one gown even carried a tiny embroidered likeness of Anne Boleyn, tucked into a sleeve, her famous necklace of pearls and bee, distinctly executed in silver thread. You wonder if they ever truly believed these small acts could affect change, or if they simply offered a way to keep their spirits alive amidst the rigid expectations of Tudor society. The evening wears on, and as the moon rises high in the velvet sky, painting the world in a silvery hue, the women's soft murmurs blend with the distant hoot of an owl somewhere beyond the manor's walls. You feel your own eyelids beginning to droop as you listen to the lull of the needle, the gentle conversations wrapping around you like a warm quilt. You've stepped into a moment where the needle is mightier than the sword, where wit threaded its way through fabric, and women quietly carved out their place in history. The pulse of Tudor England beats quietly beneath the hearth's warm glow, echoing through the corridors of time. As sleep beckons, your thoughts drift back to the bustling streets of England, outside alive, with stories' secrets woven into the very fabric of life, waiting for someone like you to unravel them. And so the tapestry of this world lulls you into a gentle rest, a peaceful sigh escaping as the night wraps its arms around you, soothing, tranquil, as dreams start to embroider themselves into the fringes of slumber.